Today, our speakers talking about the topic of we're all in this together. Let me start first with Gerry Byrne, who is currently Vice Chairman of Penske Media Corporation, which owns leading entertainment, fashion, and digital media brands that include Rolling Stone, Billboard, Variety, Women's Wear Daily, among others. His decades of accomplishments as a media executive are highlighted by a long run as publisher of Variety, where he transformed that business into a powerful, diversified global media brand. He was the startup publisher of both electronic media and Crane New York business, and ran a division of Nielsen that included The Hollywood Reporter, Billboard, Advertising, and Backstage. Mr. Byrne served as a Marine officer in Vietnam in 1968 and 69, and was awarded the Navy Achievement Medal with Combat Duty. Welcome, Gerry. But first, thank you so much for your service, and it's an honor to have you today. Gerry?
Thank you.
Perfect. Our second speaker is Michelle Sobrino-Stearns, who joined Variety in 1997, starting as sales director, where she climbed the corporate ladder, the ranks to the president and forever publisher, being responsible for all revenue and manages the global sales and marketing. She collaborates with editorial, developing more than 250 annual prints and digital features, and also oversees the development of all across platform releases, including the 50 Collect events and Summit held in. Among her numerous innovations, she created variety successful and prestigious Powered Women series held twice a year in New York and Los Angeles. Welcome, Michelle, and it's great to have you. And the last but not least speaker, Alexandra Pastore. She's a strategic content development market editor for Women Wear Daily and strategic content editor for Versatile Media, covering a diverse range of topics from fashion apparel trends and consumer behavior to fashion and the consumer and the business of beauty. Before WWD, Alexandra was a fashion assistant at W Magazine and has worked with various consumer brands in media communication. Welcome, Alexandra.
Thank you.
Hear me. And of course, and our anchor people, as a moderator, we have Debbie Menin, who is our VP of Tech Mahindra in media and entertainment space. Debbie formerly has been in senior management positions at companies such as Yahoo, AOL, MTV Network, Condé Nast, and aligned with the Think Today Variety. One of her achievements has been to rank the Women in Tech Awards ceremony, honoring top women in entertainment, which is where her passion originated this topic for today. Welcome, Debbie. And our host, Sumit, who is SVP at Tech Mahindra America. He's one of the most energetic and passionate leaders who have built many businesses successfully right from scratch. After a great stint of jump-starting communications, media, and entertainment business in Japan, he has relocated back to the US. So now it's over to you, Sumit.
Thank you. Thank you so much, our dear fabulous Fabiola. This episode is special for one more reason, because it's your debut and what an amazing job you're doing already. We're so proud of you, Fabi.
Thank you. It's an honor for me that you have been inviting me.
All right, everyone. I hope you and all yours at work and at home are safe and healthy. I'm Sumit, your host, and for this session, it is my privilege to spend this time with you, knowing you had the choice to spend it somewhere else. If anything, this pandemic has shown us how the comfort of our homes, warmth of our loved ones, and quality of content that's accessible to many of us fortunate ones can help reshape the priorities and better the quality of our lives. It is our endeavor to bring such mindful and deeper meaning topics, hoping to add value in our audience's day to day life. It gives me a great pleasure and a deep sense of honor to have such a special panel we have on our show today. I'm excited to have these eminent guests uh, and really looking forward to hearing from them. Once again, thank you, Gerry, Michelle, and Alexandra for joining us. Um, Many of you saw the Women in Leadership series. We talked about how it has been written, directed, and produced by the most exciting business we have at Tech Mahindra. We call it the communications, media, and entertainment business, where we offer the experience, technology, and engineering solutions from glass to glass through our innovative people, products, platforms, and of course, possibilities. This piece was written by Ashmeet, our marketing genius, and I promise this was the last commercial plug in the event today. One of the blessings of 2020 in disguise for all of us was launching the Women in Tech series at Tech Mahindra, promoting and celebrating empowerment from topics ranging from survival of the fittest in 2021 job market, gratitude, career transitions, to defining the meaning of I am woman in 2020. We had a chance to hear from some of the most phenomenal women in the industry about how they transformed their lives and made a bigger impact both at home and work. I still remember our first episode in season one. It was called Women Supporting Women. Debbie would recall that the panel shared their opinions on finding one's voice and passion on how to help those who needed help to find theirs. It's been a year since then, and what better time than now to bring the discussion further along on men supporting women, men supporting men, or may I say, everyone holistically supporting everyone else, since we are all in this together. Yesterday, I had a unique privilege to meet with someone who lives and exhibits tenets of an esteemed organization that I admire. I got introduced by Bill as soon as I reached the building, who greeted me with an infectious smile and escorted me to meet with their laudable leader. Bill has been working in that office for decades, and when I asked him on what his secret was for staying so long, he said he never saw even one reason to look out. He said, I work hard, they take great care of me, and I love what I do. What was exciting for me was when I met with their leader, he repeated the same mantra in its most consistent way I had ever heard. Mindfulness, integrity, purpose, authenticity, courage, and collaboration are few things I learned from none other than the generous Gerry. Taking care of the talent that goes up and down in the elevator all day may sound as a very humble way of introducing one. But I would rather have Debbie introducing him once again, sharing how he forged a path, mentored others, and created a voice for those who didn't have a platform. Let's kick it off with none other than our very own Debbie Menin.
Thank you, Sumit. So happy to be talking today. I want to say that this will be a three-part session. I'll start with a conversation with Gerry, and then we'll talk to Michelle and Alexandra, and then we'll bring Gerry back into the conversation. So along the way, if you have any questions, thoughts, comments, you want to put it in the chat box, go ahead and do that, and hopefully we'll be able to address them towards the end. All right, let's talk about Gerry. I need to start by talking about giving back. And I think we could all agree, it seems that giving back is a part of the new norm these days, which actually I love that trend. but I'll have to say Gerry does take it to another level. He's dedicated his life to non-for-profits, and I just want to name a few: the Fisher House Foundation, the Intrepid Museum, the USO, Bob Woodruff Foundation, the Creative Coalition, the Gotham Media Institute. And for the last 24 years, he's run the New York City Marine Corps Birthday Gala that benefits Team Rubicon. Now, I have to say that this is just the beginning of his list. We could stay here for the next hour talking about his contributions to the community. But truly, the idea of why Gerry's attending today is for us to hear his perspective on leadership. And what's different about Gerry is that he has an inspiring story, but to fully understand, we have to kind of go back a number of years, back to Vietnam, and ask him what lessons he's learned being a Marine. So we'll get into that. But I bring these points up as Gerry is a mentor of mine, but that just didn't happen overnight. I actually worked with him and for him for 12 years, 6 of which were at Variety. So this is a very meaningful session today, especially with Michelle being here, being the president and publisher of Variety now. But imagine working for a Marine, okay? Well, trust me, it's actually all good. Having mentors in life, whether they be men or women, is truly, I believe, the key to success. He created and passed along a management style, as Sumit was just rattling off. It was built off of commitment, integrity, a strong work ethic, being honorable. And I truly believe that came from being a Marine. So I want to stay on that subject for a minute. And Gerry, ask you if you can tell us what you learned back then, being a Marine in Vietnam, that actually has helped you with your leadership skills throughout your career and today.
Well, thank you very much and Sumit for the introduction. As to the reason that I'm here today, Debbie told me I had to be here today, and that was basically why I'm here today. It's kind of like that simple. And spending time yesterday with Sumit was a special privilege because it's just always great to talk about, ethics and integrity and how they are cornerstones to, not just business, but relationships. And at the end of the day, in all the businesses that we're part of, I often say that, the assets go up and down the elevator every day. It's all about people, and it's kind of interesting for me to be here today because I've never, put, anybody in a box, including, women. And to me, it's always been totally about talent as the overrider. So it was never, is it a she or a he or whatever? It was always to me, is this person capable of getting the job done and learning about who they are and what they represent, ethically. To Debbie's question about my Marine Corps experience, I mean, that's where it was of particular importance because of the goals and objectives that you had to achieve, as a Marine. But it was also as a Marine, I didn't, say, here's a guy who can do it or here's a gal who can do it. The question was just achieving the objective. So when I got out of the service and stumbled into the media business, that followed me through it. And so I just wanted to be around talent. And it just so happened that the women that were, with me, adjacent to me, and part of my, growth process were just, in my mind, at all times, equals. And they were individuals who I enormously respected. And I only make the comment because in today's environment that we live in with all the issues surrounding DE&I and the importance of making sure that you divide the pie accordingly to the right components. I never thought that way. I thought it was just important to seek out talent and recognize that what they could do, and I would hire accordingly. And it just so happened, as luck or nature would have it, I always had a very blended, staff that was there to get the job done. And So the Marine Corps ethic to me is, so important because we were educated on, a set of 11 principles and 14, leadership traits, and which are all worth looking up when you have a chance on the internet. But, it's kind of basic stuff, one of the 11 principles is, keep your Marines informed. I mean, hello. I mean, it's that is not rocket science. Train your Marines as a team. Again, not rocket science. So it's an ethic that I've always believed in, and most importantly, I've had the good fortune over the years to spend a lot of time with the right people, like Debbie, obviously, and Michelle, who you'll hear from in a moment. We all have looked at, the challenges that we all faced as a team, and we have all recognized that, over the years, some team members don't fit, and you just have to make adjustments accordingly. But those adjustments, in my case, thankfully, have never been based upon gender issues. They've always been based upon, the fit doesn't work, and we just have to move on and make things better. So,
Gerry, when you think about who you want in your foxhole with you, and let's apply it to the interviewing process, what goes through your mind?
well, I could say something really, nasty and sexist, but I won't do it. I mean, when I think of a foxhole and I start thinking of, Marilyn Monroe or something like that, I don't think that's the answer that you were looking for.
No.
No, I didn't think so. Okay, well, the answer is really, I just want, you want people, in life, not just a foxhole, that you can depend upon. I mean, it's the comfort that you get by knowing that, and that was what the Marine Corps was about. If I go back to the Marine Corps for a second, the Marine Corps is all about the person on your right and the person on your left, and everybody is linked together to support each other, and they depend upon each other. And I, who had the misfortune of being in the Marine Corps, during a combat environment, that's especially true. And when I wound up in the media business, which is another combat environment, it you just carry that aggressive team leadership, and it just makes a difference. It gives you confidence. I mean, so I want to be in a foxhole with someone who thinks like me, and I can depend upon, for whatever happens as a result of being there.
Can you tell us what SMEAC means?
Well, SMEAC
Used to drill that in our head way back when.
SMEAC, it's interesting question is that, in the Marine Corps, there is this 5-paragraph order, it's called. Now, 5-paragraph order is the way everything happens, that a command infrastructure, and it could be at the division level, it could be at the battalion or company level, but everything is communicated through a 5-paragraph order. And the 5-paragraph order is situation. This is SMEAC. Situation, mission, execution, action, and control. And believe it or not, that's just the framework of what I have always looked at as a business plan. So you get this challenge, and what's the situation? What's the lay of the land? Where are the challenges? What does it look like out in front of you? How many enemy, in quotes, are there? In our case, the enemy was either Condé Nast or Hearst or another, publisher. But and then after you define what the situation is, meaning the landscape, you define the mission. And the mission is basically, what you're there to achieve. And then the E is the execution of the mission, and it defines exactly what the execution process is. The actions are all the supportive actions that, are attendant to, the supporting the mission. And the control of the C is just the logistical support that you'll need to get it done, and the follow-up. And all of that happens in the Marine Corps in a matter of seconds, whereas a platoon of 44 people is led by a platoon leader. The platoon leader has 3 squads, and each squad has a squad leader. Within each squad, there are fire teams, 4-person fire teams, and each of those fire teams has a fire team leader. So when the 5-paragraph order comes from the platoon leader, and he gives it to his squad leaders, who then give it to their fire team leaders, it's just a simple, definition. Okay, guys, here's what we're facing. Here's our mission. Here's how we're going to do it. And here's how we're going to support it. And if there's a problem in terms of munitions, etc., here's how we're going to have the support to get it done. It is the same thing as a business plan, when you are trying to create a new section of a magazine, or, the acquisition of a new station in a marketplace. It's just a thought process. And the other, that everyone has heard so many times, the old, the KISS theory, it's KISS, keep it simple, stupid. It's really, something to really, embed in my mind, in the thinking, because it just, you just cut to the chase, what has to be done, and you do it. And if you're blessed with having, the right personnel, and in my case, over the years, it's been mainly women. So, I've had the good fortune to have just terrific women leadership who set the example and showed us all how to get the job done.
Gerry, you're reminding me of something. Remember when you were consulting for Parade and Walter Anderson was leading the charge there, a former Marine? I think Gerry honored Walter at the Marine Corps dinner, and Life magazine came out to combat directly against Parade. And I remember we all went into this SMEAC project on how to combat the competition. Do you remember that?
Yeah, sure. In other words, I think Michelle will attest to the fact that, I think, it's an attitude it's a highly competitive, very fair, aggressive attitude that, if you channel it and focus it and really execute these leadership skills, you win, and you kept on saying or noting former Marine. And there are no former.
Always a Marine.
Always
right?
a mindset. So once a Marine, always a Marine. And thank you. Yes.
Well, let's do this. Before we talk with Michelle and Alexandra, can you tell us just a bit about the Penske Media Corporation portfolio, since you guys are all working at the same company?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you the 60-second, skinny on. We've been around for about 15 years, founded by a brilliant young man, Jay Penske, who had this vision about creating the most dynamic and important, mainly digital media company that ever existed, and all focused on the simple components of news, information, and data. And our focus with our 23 brands, hard to believe that we have, covers the gamut of entertainment, media, communications, fashion, retail, sports, art, music with Rolling Stone and, Billboard. And the brands that we have are just extraordinary, variety, under the watchful guidance and leadership of Michelle, who is here with us today, and Deadline Hollywood and IndieWire and TV Line, and another just fantastic supplemental product that's kind of like tangential to it, called Boy Genius Reports, BGR, worth looking up to see what that is. We recently acquired South by Southwest, which is a 30-year-old entity, which it's spectacular, based in Austin, because it's a festival that basically allows all our brands to fit in very comfortably, and as a cultural destination, it has become very important on the domestic and international landscape for all aspects of not just entertainment business, but, politics and, even space travel has become a component of it. So, we're a business that has grown amazingly smartly, thanks to Jay's leadership. And even during the pandemic, we had nobody was laid off because of the pandemic, and we grew the business.
Love that.
And we also, worth noting, because I think it's important, a year and a half ago, we recognized that, you really have to support and pay people. So we, Penske Media Corporation, our, minimum wage is $25. So we that hourly wage, with the people debating on a state and federal basis whether it should be, $12.50 or $15, we recognize that, it's important to send a signal to the community that you have to pay people a living wage to, get the job done. And we've got great talent. We've got about 1,200 people in our organization, and it's a pleasure to just be part of it and, be have the opportunity to watch and be part of the individuals who are there making it happen. So, yes,
Well,
I could go on and on, but I will not.
Well, I'm glad we'll have an opportunity to talk to some of those individuals at the company. So let's pivot over here to Michelle and Alexandra. My thought is pairing them up together. We have a president and publisher of Variety, and we have a rising star with Alexandra as in the editorial department at Women's Wear Daily. So I thought what would be interesting about the two is that they have vast different work experiences, numbers of years in the marketplace. So when I'll ask them the same questions, and let's look at their answers and see how they vary. But before that, at the beginning, Sumit had mentioned that our first webinar was Women Supporting Women. And we could have titled this Men Supporting Women, but instead we called it We're All in This Together. So let's take that opportunity and ask Michelle and Alexandra what they think about that title. And do you believe that we're all in this together? And have you had any scenarios where you're more supported by women in your career, or men, or both? So either one of you, why don't you jump in and give us your thoughts? Who's first?
I'll go.
I see the hand.
Thank you. It's so much for having me. Thank you for even wanting to, I have to say. I think the title is ideal. I do think we're in this together. I have had tremendous men like Gerry Byrne support me throughout my career, even when I was, a kid in this business. And I've had incredible women support me throughout my career as well. And I've also had women not support me in my career as well. So I think there's this myth that women always support women, and unfortunately that's not the truth. I've had women let me go step back. Actually, when PMC acquired Variety, there had never been a woman who had ever held the title of publisher at Variety. And under Gerry Byrne and Jay Penske's leadership, I was promoted. This was before the Me Too movement. They simply saw, and to be clear, I didn't ask for the title. I didn't ask for the role because I was kind of the roll up your sleeves and just do the work and just have an impact. And they promoted me to a title that I never thought I'd have, or that I'd even thought I'd witness a woman having. But it says a lot about this company, being PMC, because they did this before it became a trend, before it became something they felt that they ever had to do. And I'm still very humbled and honored by all of it. But I do remember before PMC acquired the company, I had been promoted to an associate publisher position, and I had a young woman in the company tell me that she felt sorry for me, that I was being set up for failure because I had never had proper training. And then I remembered that the person who held the role before me, who happened to be man never had any training and in fact had very little sales experience. So yeah, we are all in this together and it is about respect.
Good answer. I like the example. Alexandra, do you want to jump in here?
Yeah, so echoing what Michelle said, thank you so much for having us, and I'm excited to be here and honestly hear a lot of what Michelle and Gerry have to say, because I feel like I'm also learning while we're here. But to answer your question, are we all in this together? Absolutely yes. You know, I've had great experiences in my career working with both men and women, and I've been very lucky that I think that that's been the case. You know, again, working in media, working in fashion, it's a very competitive industry, however. You know, I'll laughingly reference The Devil Wears Prada here just to say that there have even been movies about it, where women are competitive with each other, and maybe that hasn't been very supportive in a lot of ways. But I've also been exposed to instances, experiences where I have felt very supported by both men and women in my career. And, you know, especially I'll say at PMC, I've had the opportunity to be mentored by men as well as women, and I've been able to learn so much from both.
Great. Well, thank you. I just wanted to mention, we don't have any questions in the chat room yet. So if anyone wants to throw something out there, ask Gerry Byrne a really tough question. Feel free. Let's talk about Me Too. That's the subject that is quite interesting, intriguing, and sad in a way. But knowing that Alexandra, again, and Michelle have different life experiences, I was just wondering, Michelle, if you could jump in here and provide any thoughts, comments, experiences that you can share around that movement, the Me Too movement.
Yeah, for me, the Me Too movement, like most women, I think was very sad, very emotional. Specifically, I think for me, I can't speak about anybody else, but you know, I had experienced a lot in my career. You know, whether it was men in the office having a beauty contest and rating women, whether it was being denied a raise because I was a woman or I was pregnant. There were just a lot of factors, and I realized during the Me Too movement, and I lived on social media, and I read everybody's, you know, Twitter feeds, and I was so consumed with these stories, and I realized that all of these things that I had experienced, I had buried in my mind, compartmentalized kind of this trauma that you've experienced, especially as a woman, and it was very painful. But from that pain, you know, you grow stronger. And, you know, as a leader now at PMC, I have many responsibilities, one of which is to make sure that nothing like this ever happens again under my watch.
Right.
I am beyond committed to it. I was also very lucky because my family raised a very strong feminist here. But I'll tell you an interesting story. So everybody always thinks, you know, Me Too is always sexual in nature, but it's also being undermined as a woman. So I was pregnant with my first child. I had a tremendous year in terms of my impact, in terms of revenue at the company. And I came in, I asked for a raise. I was denied the raise. And somebody at the company told me, confidentially, a very senior executive, that the person who denied the raise denied it because they thought I'd never come back to work because I was pregnant. And it was a waste to even consider giving me the raise. So from that point on, I had a very different attitude. So, you know, this individual kept asking me on a daily basis how I was feeling because I was pregnant. And I decided I would never talk about being pregnant. So I would always respond with, how are you feeling? And it made this person incredibly uncomfortable, who happened to be a man, incredibly uncomfortable that I consistently put it back on him. How are you feeling today? I'm fantastic. How are you feeling? So I don't want women to ever have to deal with any of this. I want women to say, you know what? I'm exhausted, because that's how I felt. I was exhausted, but I was excited to be in the office. Yeah, so the Me Too movement for me was a very pivotal moment in history that unfortunately is still happening, and I can, specifically in the entertainment industry. And we do everything we can to make sure it never happens at Variety.
Do you have a good HR staff that comes and meets with your team to make sure that they know how to, talk to management if something like that were to ever happen?
Yeah, not only do we have a great HR staff, we have such a deep focus on parity, equality, and I'm so happy about this, because this is something that I've never experienced before in my career. I have the support of 3 HR executives, obviously access to a senior leadership team. In fact, I have never had this much support in my career until now.
That's fantastic. I'm so happy to hear that. Well, Alexandra, I want to move it to you for a minute. Me Too movement, what does it mean to you, or have you had any experiences or anything you could share?
So I count myself very lucky that I've not been in situations that would fall under the Me Too movement personally. But, given that the Me Too movement has been going on for a few years now, it's still going on. When I entered into my career and my workforce, it was very much a topic of discussion from the different women that I worked for. And it was always kind of more of you're entering this environment, here's some warnings, maybe in an office, or maybe hushed tones, or maybe a lot of, I think, storytelling now is coming out. So a lot of hearing, we want to make this a place where never again we come in and have to say, as the woman in the room, because hopefully those things are just considered. And so it's always been something that I've been very, very aware of, just because that conversation in my career has always been going.
Alexandra, I'm going to stay on that theme a little bit, but I'm going to just talk about your voice. Do you believe your voice is heard today? And if there was a time when it wasn't, what did you do to change it?
So today, in my role with WWD, with PMC, yes, I completely believe that my voice is heard, but of course, there have been times in my career when I didn't feel that way. And I think that it was a lot of maybe trial and error, a lot of coming with different approaches. And, the number one thing that I think I had a hard time articulating, in the beginning, which I think is probably very common as people start their career. But, the number one thing that I found worked for me is to always come with a solution. And if I was coming to anyone with a problem, and if I was coming to a senior editor with, this is the problem that we have right now, here's the solution that I've already taken care of it, don't even worry about it, here's my solution. And let's talk through that, because I think it just, when you're coming with a solution, not just a problem, your voice is heard in a different octave. And it's not being seen as someone who, she's constantly coming to me with problems and she can't figure this out on her own. I'm never going to come without a solution. And I think that also doing that over time has built up my voice, being heard more. And something else, over time, as I've come and asked for more responsibility or a change in role and taking more on maybe, or maybe asking for a raise, is having someone be there as an advocate is, I think, essential, especially as we're all kind of working together.
Alexandra, we were going to talk about that, at me asking you, do you have any advice on asking for a raise or promotion? What was your answer going to be?
My answer is going to be, I would love some advice from anyone who is willing to share.
Like Michelle?
Like Michelle, specifically. Going to pivot and ask Michelle if she can give us all some advice there.
Actually, Michelle, I mean, I honestly think after all of these sessions I've been moderating, that's the number one most consistent theme of an issue that I've seen with women is asking for a salary increase and or a promotion. So I know you've got an example you'd love to share. So if you want to jump in on that, and then also talk about your voice, if you feel that you had to change, I know you did when you were young, and then where you are today. I know that's a lot to talk about, but you've got the floor.
All right. So my advice, so 100%, I agree, Debbie, that I think asking for money for women is very hard. It's a very hard task. As a manager, I've noticed for years that men come in with more confidence. They like to lay out credentials and basically say that they are deserving of more, where I think as women, we have a harder time with that. So my advice is, and you know, when people can ask me for money, I do want the credentials. I want to know, what impact have you had in the last calendar year? What have you taken on that is above and beyond the role that you have? So impact, you know, at PMC, the way we look at success is, well, we look at success many ways, but you know, what revenue impact have you had? What money have you saved the company? What content have you created that has been impactful, right? So depending on the department you're in, but it's really talking about the impact you have. And I would say that we need to stop as women hiding behind our impact and walking in with confidence. And as I say this, I am also advising myself because it's still hard for me. In terms of having a voice, there were many years where I felt I did not have one. I started off feeling like I had one. In fact, I felt like I had one under Gerry because I got to go to Miami. As a kid, I got to go to Miami Beach with Gerry Byrne. As amazing as that sounds, it was also one of the scariest experiences because Gerry Byrne was the president and publisher of Variety. He was in New York. I was in Los Angeles. And he was the big scary guy who ran Variety, right? And I called him and said, will you come with me to, you know, on meetings? And he said, I will only meet with CEOs. I was a kid. I didn't know anything about entertainment. I didn't know anyone. But Gerry got me to call everyone, got CEO meetings. And this is before tech. I'm glad we're talking about technology too with Tech Mahindra, because there was no technology. I was working off a map, a paper map, driving the president of Variety around from meeting to meeting. I didn't know what I was doing. But we got it done. And I had a voice. Gerry treated me with the utmost respect. Gerry helped me get promoted. And so I had a voice. And then there were times where I didn't have a voice at the company, where I had men take credit for things that I had done, for impact that I had made. And it was awful. But now, part of the beauty of working at PMC is that you do have a voice and you can have impact. And it's pretty damn amazing.
Love it. Hey, are you in your dream job?
Me? Oh my God, yes.
Was it a goal?
Was it what?
Was it a goal?
For me, yeah. I'm super emotional and passionate, and of course, yeah. For me, I always wanted to be in my dream job, and I have to say, I landed my dream job in 1997, the day I started at Variety. I walked in. People were screaming, journalists were breaking phones, salespeople, the publisher was running around, marketers were running around, and I reveled in the chaos. I absolutely loved it. Variety was #1, the most powerful entertainment media brand, and we still are.
And you still are.
But I felt honored and humbled by just being part of the team. And I have to tell you, to this day, I still do, but even more so because under the PMC umbrella, there's no bureaucracy. We are allowed to be entrepreneurs as long as we keep on brand. we can do whatever we want. Sobriety, we've created TV shows, we've pivoted to a digital, event strategy. We've invented over 100 events. It is get to work collaboratively. I am obsessed with what I do. The team that I get to work with every day, they are the best, and it's just fun.
I love that. I so love that. I want to say my heart goes out for you. I love it when people they love what they do and they love what they do for a living. And on that note, I want to bring this over to Alexandra for a minute. I recall many, many years ago, she wanted to do what she's doing, and I would love for her to tell us her story, going back to high school, of what it is you knew you wanted to do and how you got there.
So I too am happily in my dream job. I love telling people what I do. I was recently at a wedding actually where I was talking to a young woman who is actually in law school, hoping to go into fashion and law. And she asked what I did, and I told her, and she said, oh, dream job. And I said, yes. So, I love to tell people that, but it's also, like Debbie said, going back to high school, I mean, when I think about my job now, it's something I targeted, very, very much targeted.
Very much so.
Very much so. And I was when people asked me what I wanted to do, I was very clear on that and was questioned a lot. And that's what I wanted to do. I always wanted to come to New York. I grew up in Chicago. I always wanted to work in fashion. And quite frankly, I always kind of had W and WWD up there on my vision board of sorts as places that I wanted to work specifically, and followed and read myself. And, the path wasn't easy, as Debbie and I talk about a lot. Coming to New York from Chicago, I really didn't know anyone. I had once, when I first moved here and I was interviewing, I was at dinner with a woman who said to me, well, I had just been in an interview, didn't get it, as many, many interviews go. But she said to me, well, do you think it's because maybe what you're wearing, because you are from Chicago, so maybe you just don't get it? And I said, no, don't think that's the case at all. And it'll happen, and I'm not worried about it. And of course, very worried about it. But I was just something that I knew I had going for me was that I knew that I really wanted it. I kept telling myself I knew I could do it, and I was very consistent. And I think that was very, very helpful, my consistency, because there were many times where I could have given up and not gotten the dream job.
Yeah, I think Alexandra and Michelle are just two perfect examples of people that put their goal out there and they worked hard to get what they wanted. And I admire that so much. So congratulations to both of you on that. Well, let's bring Gerry back into the conversation. But before I want to say this from a personal side, it doesn't matter if it's a man or woman. I think we all know that being an exceptional leader is what's important. The key here is that Gerry doesn't discriminate. And I'm saying that because I think it's great for a lot of other men to hear this. He does, however, what he does do is he leads by example, and he helps us all rise to be our best selves. And I think if I were to say personally, I mean, he's been a guiding light to me since 1990. And I want to thank you, Gerry, in this forum for being such an inspiration in my life. You already know that. But let's think about the impact he's actually made. If he's made that on me, what he's made on PMC. So Alexandra, just wondered if you could talk just for a minute about how Gerry's been a leader at PMC, but knowing you haven't had a relationship with as long as Michelle has, I'm just wondering if you have any sentiment to say about what other women would want to say about Gerry, if that made sense.
Yes, of course. So for myself personally, I'll start there. Debbie and I actually had dinner with Gerry when I was just a fashion closet intern at Elle magazine. And I was trying to figure it out. It was my first time in a fashion magazine, and And then I met with him again when I first graduated and was trying to sort out a quote unquote real job, getting out of the internship phase. And he's always asked me a lot of very provoking questions that helped me really think about my career and what I was doing and where I was going, and kind of maybe enlightened what, oh, maybe I should be thinking about this as well. And it was very helpful. I gained a lot of insight, so thank you. You know, and also when I got this job at WWD, I had reached out to Gerry. We'd had a conversation or two, and I know that he supported me in coming into this position. And that was, I mean, it meant a lot to me. It made me feel, I think, more confident also to know that I had someone there. You know, but as Debbie said, Gerry works with a lot of wonderful women at PMC, and I spoke to Amanda Smith, our president of Fairchilds, yesterday. And I said, you know, I'm talking to Gerry tomorrow, and I know that you also have a relationship with him, and why don't you give me some wonderful experiences, because I know they're all wonderful. And had a lovely conversation with her, and she said, you know, it's a great point, because when she first started, she always felt like from the women at PMC, it's just a very supportive relationship, feeling that Gerry is really rooting for us. And I think that's just, again, that wonderful feeling.
Well, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Michelle, I know you're probably dying to talk about this subject. Do you want to jump in?
I will always want to talk about Gerry Byrne. One thing I do want to say about Gerry that actually really, you know, impacted me in my career was witnessing somebody lead a company in such a brilliant manner, in such a sense of calm. And I say that because it's important, because I've reported to a lot of people who weren't calm, who were erratic, and there was this sense that to be you know, competitive and to be strong, you had to act a certain way. And I have to say, Gerry, you taught me a lot, because I do, you know, it's what would Gerry do is what we ask ourselves at Variety. And I try to lead with as much calmness as I can. At times I go off the rails a bit, but for the most part, with calmness. And I think, you know, what Gerry has done for Variety has been pretty tremendous. He's inspired everybody. Gerry came to one of our events that we do every year called Power of Women, which is an event where we honor, you know, 5 women in the entertainment industry for their commitment to their charitable organizations. And, you know, Gerry said, you know, I'd love to do this for the veterans community. And we said, let's do it. And we all jumped on board and rallied around Gerry. And Gerry has led this initiative, which has become one of the most important initiatives, not only for Variety, but for PMC. And the entire team is, from the editorial side to the business side, is so honored to just be a part of this. So I would say we've all been inspired. We've all, you know, I don't know, we've just become a better company because of it. So it's my opportunity to thank you on this podcast.
Gerry, want to add anything to this conversation?
Yeah, well, I want to make sure that this is all being recorded, and I can attach it to my resume, you know, because I've never been so flattered by, you know, such great people. And I mean that. And, you know, there was when you guys were commenting on it's a little anecdote that worth, you know, thinking about we're all in this together. And you know, the phrase that really describes the Marine Corps that everybody knows is Semper Fi, always faithful. But when you often hear the term Gung Ho about that was attributed to the Marines, or you have the Gung Ho spirit or whatnot, most people don't even know where that term came from, Gung Ho, but it's worthy of this conversation to know it. And where it came from, it came from the Korean War, when the North Koreans basically described the Marine Corps as Gung Ho. And what it means, interestingly enough, is working together. In other words, the enemy described the Marine Corps as Gung Ho working together. I mean, what a compliment from people out there trying to kill you, because they recognized, you know, the importance and the impact that you can have when you work together. And, you know, I believe in that. And, you know, the whole thing about, you know, giving back, if I could just segue for a second, which I think is important for everybody to do in work and personal life and whatnot. But, you know, what really got me there, you know, I always thought it was important to you know, to get involved in your community. But before I was at Variety, I worked for Norman Lear when he had created a company called Act 3 Communications. And we owned television stations and movie theaters, and we produced movies. Stand By Me, Princess Bride, and Fried Green Tomatoes were produced while I was there. But I was having lunch with him one day, you know, just the two of us. And I said, Norman, I said, how do you do all the things that you do? And this guy was, I mean, involved in everything. He created People for the American Way. He was involved in every charity you could think of. And what he said is really what stayed with me and inspired me, and I think is worth, you know, embedding in everyone's thought process. He said, Gerry, he says, it's easy. He says, life is not a rehearsal, you know? And that's exactly what he said to me. And I'll never forget it. He says, you know, life is not a rehearsal. I mean, unbelievable what that means. It means that, you know, every time you have an opportunity to make a difference and do the right thing, whether it's leadership in business, which is what we're talking about now, or how to, you know, support the community that you live in, or a special charity you care about, you know, life is not necessarily a 100-year exercise. So every day is a gift, and the opportunity to make a difference, I think, is important. So voila. Thank you, Debbie.
Well, those are words to live by, I gotta say, and they're profound words. So with that, let's do this really quickly. I was actually reading this book recently. You can see it. It's Robin Roberts' book, From the Heart, 7 Rules to Live By. I think Gerry just gave us his rules to live by, but Michelle and Alexandra, do you want to just give us a couple antidotes of things that you think are important that you've learned along the way?
Yeah, I'll start. I think
We've got
the number one thing for me in business and in life, it's not right. You shouldn't separate business from the rest of your life. It's really one big circle, is and that's something that I hold myself to that standard every day. And I want to go back to something really quickly when I'm talking about this. When we were talking about raises and how to ask for a raise for anyone who's listening, I was promised a raise when I was younger in my career. I had exceeded my number for the year by 30% in the first 9 months of the year. I was the #1 sales executive, and I was promised a raise by my manager. And by the end of the year, I went in and asked for the raise. I waited till the end of the year, and my manager said to me, well, sometimes you have to leave the company to get more money. Now, I didn't want to leave. I knew where I wanted to be. I only wanted to be. I loved that brand and that team more than anything. And I don't know what came over me, but I decided to be relentless in my pursuit of what I thought I was worth, and went in over this person's head, and I got what I wanted. So my advice to anybody listening is, if you know you deserve better, if you know you are worth more, fight for it. So that's number one, deliver on your promise. I think I'm sorry?
good words to live by.
The second one for me is my mom always said this growing up, your greatest strength is also your greatest weakness. So, as a leader, sometimes, we have this tendency to select somebody who may be a very A-type, hard-charging person who has tremendous impact on the business and think they might be a right fit for a manager position. And then you realize, oh, maybe they're not a good manager. Maybe they're kind of a good, lone ranger out there. And they like that freedom. So I've had to learn a lot. I actually use that saying almost every single day. I even use it with my kids. And the last one, and I worked at a metaphysical bookstore in college. So excuse me for quoting Joseph Campbell, but I live by this. The privilege of a lifetime is being who you are. So every day it centers me. It reminds me how lucky I am to be where I'm at, to work alongside all these individuals, to just to be alive. So that is, those are the kind of the three things I live by.
I love that. It's the privilege. It really is. Well, we're at the top of the hour. Alexandra, I'm just going to ask you to rattle off your three.
Okay, super fast. My three are: don't take no for an answer. It's something you believe in. Teamwork makes the dream work, which is basically find a good team to surround yourself with. And communication is key.
All right. So I think we've learned a lot from Michelle, Gerry, and Alexandra here. And I want to thank everybody for listening. If anyone wants to ping us later with any questions, we're happy to answer it. I didn't see any in on the chat, but thank you again, Fabiola, for helping us host today, and Ashmeet for all your marketing materials, and stay tuned for additional sessions. We'll have one in late July, probably around the music industry. So have a great day. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Gerry.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.